Alright, finished my meal, back with another video. Ugh. Alright, so when you have conversations over a few years with atheists and non-believers, you learn how to deal with certain conversations. The thing with atheists is that they don't like to defend their position because they know they have an indefensible position. If an atheist says there are no gods, they know they can't prove that. So they like to put themselves on the position where they're the ones you have to prove to that God exists because of the positive claim principle. You make a positive claim, then you have to meet the burden of proof. So if the atheist never takes a positive position, then they don't have to defend their position. You know what I'm saying? So you have to make sure that you pick your battles. Pick your battles, man. So we have Big Pappy requesting up. Big Pappy, what's up?
Hey, what's up, Adrian? I'll be fast. I was here yesterday, but Darth didn't want to answer my question. So I was wondering if you had an argument against it. So I'm an atheist, and I have a pantheistic worldview, which basically means that the universe itself is what people think is God. So the argument is that God does exist, but the way that theists believe God exists is of a conceptual nature. That conceptual nature is either brought through the person's mind through tradition, oral tradition, books, and mutual conceptual understanding amongst individuals. So let's say some people believe the laws of logic are produced by God, and other people will agree with them, but it's still of a conceptual nature. Would you happen to have an argument against that?
Actually, no. I think I was taught my religion. Are you saying that because we're taught to believe what we believe, that therefore it's false? Or is it something else? It
is true. It's only that it's true in a conceptual state. That's it.
It's true in a conceptual state. So if one of the propositions is that Yahweh exists and he's the creator of the world, and the concept of Yahweh was taught to me, is it true that he is the creator of the world, or is it false that he's the creator of the world?
Yeah, it's only true in a conceptual state in which you learn that from whatever thing that you learned that from. So if you were to say, let's say that.
Go ahead.
So if you were to say, like, you were like to say that, let's say Yahweh is outside of the universe, you wouldn't be able to prove that in reality, right? You would only be able to acknowledge that in a conceptual state, which still pertains for it to be false because it's unprovable.
So are you saying that it's false that Yahweh is the creator of the universe and he's outside of time because we can't see him?
Yeah.
We can't see him?
Yeah, its only existence is in a conceptual state amongst the person's mind, right? So let's say if you were to ask, let's say if you believe that Yahweh exists outside of time and space, right? If I was to talk to another believer of Yahweh, they could have a different conceptual thought that not only is he outside of time and space, but he is in time and space, right? So it is the same God, it is the same religion, but the conceptual nature is what evolves or dissolves from
it. I'm still trying to pinpoint what you're really saying. Are you saying that because it's conceptual, it's false?
Exactly. And for the guy who is on the chat saying that it's an argument from ignorance, it's not an argument from ignorance. It's an argument from the knowledge of. So let's say Yahweh does exist, but it's only within the conceptual nature of he who reads one of his books. So let's say the Jews, right, they believe in Yahweh but don't believe in Jesus. The Christians believe that Jesus is Yahweh. And then you have the Muslims that believe that Yahweh is the true God, but he is the only true God, and that Muhammad is his prophet, right? So although they all believe belief in Yahweh and such, it is all three of them are the result of conceptual nature. So it's not an argument from ignorance; it's an argument of study.
Okay, so the access to the concept of Yahweh came from the Bible, right?
Yeah.
So the question now becomes: the people, the men who wrote the Bible, where did their concept come from?
Yeah, their concept came from other men.
Say it again.
Their concept came from other men.
Their concept came from other men. Who were those men?
Whatever the Bible pertains for it. Sorry, for the background noise. I'm sorry. So they themselves got it from oral tradition, which is conceptual, or got it from a book, which is also conceptual.
So when you go back, because the argument I'm hearing is our access to the God concept Yahweh came from a book, but there was a time when there was no book and men believed in Yahweh and they wrote as they were directed by the Holy Spirit. So my question now becomes again, who did they get their information from? And if they did get their information, wait, hold on. I didn't finish the question. Who did they get their information from? And if they got their information, the men who wrote the books of the Bible, they got their information from other men. Who were those men, and why didn't they mention those men in their revelation? Go ahead.
Yeah, beautiful. So let's say when you talk about the church fathers, they were supposedly people who got it from the disciples of the disciples, right? Do we agree on that?
No, I'm talking about the Old Testament. Hold on, I'm talking about the Old Testament. I want you to hear the question very carefully, okay? So I'm asking you.
So you're saying where did Moses? Are you asking where did Moses get his text from?
Yeah. So since the claim is that go ahead. Maybe you heard the question, so go ahead.
Yeah. So Moses himself is a conceptual character, which is in the Bible himself, which creates the narrative of the story. So it's just Moses didn't exist. He's just another character within the book.
Okay. So what I'm hearing now is that you reject the biblical testimony.
I don't reject. I acknowledge the biblical testimony as a conceptual nature.
You reject the truth. You reject the truth of the biblical testimony.
Yeah, the truth is unfortunate because it cannot be proven as truth. It's just a conceptual.
All right, so let's talk about proof. Let's talk about your concept of proof.
One second. Can I ask a question?
Wait,
I actually have to go. They're calling me. But before I go, I'll come back. I promise. I'll come back when I have more time. It's good that I give you the argument that you could think about it, so you can help me work on it.
No, I haven't heard the full thing yet because I don't know what you mean by proof and what you consider as proof.
No. Before, let's say if I was to ask you, right? If you don't mind just giving me a little leverage. I know this is your channel. I'm asking for some leverage, right? Like if I were to ask you, could you prove that Moses exists, right? Would you be able to do that?
I would not even attempt to do that until I know what you mean by proof.
So is it fair for me to say that Moses does exist within the confines of the conceptual nature of the book? Am I okay to say that?
No, because you're also saying implicitly that he does not exist outside of the book itself. So I would reject that. I would say that Moses. I would say that Moses, along with every other individual who is ever mentioned in the Bible, were actual historical people who actually existed. And you would ask me to prove that to you. And I'm going to ask you, what do you mean by proof? What do you mean by proof? You got to get that to me.
Any proof that it's outside of a conceptual nature.
And I'm going to say again, I'm not even going to attempt to prove it to you until I know what you mean by proof.
Yeah, anything that is provable outside of a conceptual nature.
You're using the word, anything that is provable outside of a conceptual nature. What do you mean by provable?
Anything that is tangible outside of a conceptual nature.
Okay, so anything that is tangible. So you have a naturalistic framework when it comes on to proof. If it's not tangible, then it's not real.
You can give a conceptual nature. You can still give proof conceptually. We just have to accept that it's only conceptual.
Oh, I actually reject the entire premise. I'm trying to get down to it. So what I've established this far is that you accept proof if it's tangible, which is naturalism.
I accept it if it's conceptual also, but it just stays in the frame of conception.
And
So
something that is
it's just still conceptual.
and you have already told me that if it's conceptual, then it's not true.
Unfortunately so, until proven otherwise.
Okay, perfect. So what matters to me now is what you actually consider to be true, which is something that's tangible, which is naturalism. That's the foundation of naturalism. So you would have to prove that naturalism is true before you can use the standard of naturalism to judge anything's truth claims.
Well, naturalism is the ground on which everything stands on. Right? You cannot be unnatural.
And that statement is proven by what methodology? Science? Or your experience?
It's just the grounding of everything.
How do you know that? Is it your experience or is it science? What is the methodology that made you know that?
It's the grounding experience of all things. Now, I'll be back. I gotta go. Thank you, though, Adrian. I'll see you later on. Thank you.
All right. Yeah, so guys, that's the issue. That's the issue. Now he was about to get in a corner because and every Christian who's listening to this right now, do not get caught by the bait of can you prove that God exists? Find out what they mean by proof. Find out what they mean by proof. As soon as he says something tangible, then you have now identified the worldview. The worldview is naturalism. Something is true if it can be proven tangibly, or seen tangibly, or experienced tangibly, all right? Which would exclude Yahweh. But you have to then ask the question, is naturalism true? If they say yes, you then ask, how do you know naturalism is true? He said that naturalism is the experience of all people. I was just about to ask him, how do you know that? Now, we're going to have some issues if he comes back when it comes on to his justification for naturalism being true. Because, guys, naturalism, every time someone appeals to naturalism and say that it's true, they appeal to science, the scientific method, which already presupposes naturalism, which means that it's begging the question. You're appealing to something that already assumes your position that you need to prove. Or you're appealing to something to prove the position that you already assume is true. No, he's not an intuitionalist, because I asked him about the nature of proof, and he said tangible. Tangible. If it's tangible, it's true. And that's why he doesn't accept Yahweh, because he says Yahweh is a concept, and Yahweh is not tangible if he's a concept. But that would mean that Yahweh doesn't exist. If Yahweh is a concept, then you only accept tangible proof. So the question becomes, is the standard you're using to judge the truth of Christianity a true standard? Does the standard come from a worldview that's true? Because if the worldview is not true, then the standard you're using is not true. And the worldview has not been demonstrated to be true on its own merits, then you don't know it's true and you're using it as a standard to judge Christianity. So I'm looking forward for him to come back so that Mapazi. Looking forward for him to come back so he can defend his position, because guys, everyone has a philosophy of fact. Everyone has a view on what they consider as a fact and what they reject. Everyone has one. Everyone has a standard or criteria for accepting something as evidence. Everyone does. You got to find out what it is. Don't even attempt to prove something to anyone unless you find out what they consider proof. Don't even attempt. Don't do it. All right, let me pull this up. Philosophy of fact. Wow, my eye is not good right now. I need to stop taking off my glasses. This is not good. All right, so philosophy of fact is a worldview's account of what is a fact, what are facts, where do facts come from, why facts are intelligible, how facts relate to truth, how facts can be known, how facts are interpreted, how facts can be understood, what counts as evidence, what standard determines proof, how facts relate to ultimate reality. So that's philosophy of fact. Every worldview has one. Every worldview has a philosophy of fact, what you consider a fact. If you're a naturalist, you will only accept tangible things as proof or evidence for something. Yahweh cannot be presented to you in a cup as a physical thing. So in virtue of your worldview, you're going to reject the existence of Yahweh. So the question becomes, is your worldview true? That's where it goes, man. That's where it has to go. That's where it has to go. That's why you heard me in the conversation. I told him, I am not going to even attempt to prove that God exists or prove anything exists until I know what your philosophy of fact is. Because as soon as I present something that is short of tangible evidence, he's going to say that he's unconvinced, or he's going to say that my claim is false. And I'm not gonna go around in circles with people like that. I've been down that road before. I've been there, done that, got the T-shirt. I'm not messing around with positions like that. No, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. So we have someone else requesting up right now. We have King. Okay, King. King, welcome.
Hey, what's up, bro?
I'm doing all right, King. How you doing?
I'm cool.
Are you an atheist?
An atheist?
Do you believe in God?
I don't. Like an external deity? No.
So you believe in an internal deity? Do you believe in an internal deity?
I believe that. Well, my view is that I would say law. I would say law is the eternal force in nature, or the eternal truth in nature.
Is law conscious, personal, and rational?
Law is the force that moves all things.
Is it conscious, rational, and personal?
It's observable.
Yeah. But is it conscious, rational, and personal?
Is law conscious?
Yeah.
No, law is a force.
Okay. So would you say
law has awareness? I don't think law has awareness. I mean, I couldn't make that determination.
So would you say that we all came from this law of force, or force of law?
I would say as a result, yes, everything is resulted from some form of law.
Okay, so do you know what the nature of this law is? Is it physical? Is it eternal? Is it tangible?
What do you mean, the nature of the law that causes an effect?
Yeah.
Yes, the law of cause and effect.
Okay, so the law of cause and effect, you would say, is not rational, not conscious, not personal, but it was able to produce rational, conscious, personal beings.
I wouldn't say that the law is rational. But as far as the law having, like, if the law has a consciousness, that's something I can't make that determination.
Okay, so you would know so you would say that you don't know that it has a consciousness, but you know that consciousness came from it.
Exactly.
But you wouldn't know how that happened. You just know that's just what happened, right? Okay.
Yes,
So
from observing nature, yes.
So when you look at reality, do you consistently see conscious entities producing conscious entities, or do you see non-conscious entities producing conscious entities? Which one do you see consistently in reality?
No, but conscious entities producing other conscious entities.
Yeah. So if someone says
you mean
that
entities that possess awareness, correct?
yeah. So would you say that if a Christian says that they don't think that the claim the law of cause and effect produced consciousness because the law of cause and effect is non-conscious, and they don't accept that because what they observe in reality is that consciousness comes from consciousness? Would they have a rational basis for rejecting that position?
By saying that the law of cause and effect. So you're basically trying to say like the law of cause and effect couldn't bring about consciousness because it doesn't possess consciousness? Is that what you're trying to say?
No. What my position would be, what I would say if someone were to ask me about cause and effect, is that the cause and effect principle is dependent and originates from that which is ultimate, and that which is ultimate is Yahweh, the God who created all things. And God is conscious, and therefore the ultimate thing that produced everything else, we would not have a disconnect or a symmetry breaker between what is produced and what produced it. I'm a conscious being. I was made by a conscious being. But if I remove Yahweh from the equation and I have
the
cause
thing
and
about
effect,
it is,
yeah, go ahead.
yeah, the thing about it is law is intangible.
Law is not tangible, yeah, because it's a principle. But I would ask you, what
Right.
I would ask you is the law of cause and effect ultimate or contingent?
Yeah, of course, it's ultimate. It's absolute.
Okay, so it's ultimate,
There's
and
no
it's
going around it. I mean, even if you was to have this claim to this Yahweh, he couldn't escape the law of cause and effect. He or it or whatever you're claiming it to be couldn't escape the law of cause and effect. It's a principle in nature.
Wouldn't you say?
Ingrained.
Okay. Wouldn't you say that the law of cause and effect only applies to things that are caused to exist?
Exactly.
So if somebody defines Yahweh as that,
there could be nothing that. Go ahead, I'm listening.
So I was saying, if somebody defines Yahweh as an eternal being who has no cause, wouldn't that be something that cause and effect does not apply to?
Okay, so what would be the basis for its existence? Whatever you're claiming, right? You're claiming that something exists. What would be the basis of its existence?
Well,
and if you're saying it's outside of the law of cause and effect.
Well, what I'm claiming is that you can do this study on your own if you would like. Necessary being concept. If something is a necessary being, they exist necessarily in all possible worlds, and they exist independently, which would necessitate that the law of cause and effect would not be applied to this being, but rather it would be dependent upon this being, because this being would be the one who causes all things, which would mean that he would be the grounding for the very principle of cause and effect.
Okay, so then I would have to ask you the question, okay, which one of your senses are you using to perceive this?
I'm not using any of my senses to perceive Yahweh because Yahweh is a spirit. But if you're saying that if I don't see Yahweh, he doesn't exist, or if I don't see something, then it doesn't exist, then that means you're a naturalist.
I'm not claiming that.
Okay.
I'm not claiming. I never limited to any one of your senses. I'm just asking you which one of your senses.
None.
Because if there's something that you're claiming that's if there's something that you're claiming that's perceivable to you, right? You're having a thought in your mind about something, right? I possess the same qualities that you do. So if you're capable of perceiving it, then I should be able to perceive it also. So I'm asking you, whatever it is that you're perceiving, which one of your senses are you using to perceive it?
Tell her I'm busy. I'm not using any of my senses to perceive Yahweh. However, I do use my senses to perceive the things that I would expect from a God like Yahweh, like the characteristics of this world. This world has intelligibility, this world has consciousness, this world has order and uniformity and things like that, which would be the things that I would expect to see, and I do see them if Yahweh indeed exists, because that is the attributes that he possesses, and they are mapped onto reality and reflected in reality perfectly. So I do use my senses to perceive what I would expect if Yahweh exists, and I do see them. But cause and effect being the ultimate, that's a problem, because we have things flowing from cause and effect that are characteristically um, not anything like cause and effect. It's a problem there.
Yeah, but you're going outside the bounds of your ability to perceive something and claiming that it exists, and then saying that. So how is it acceptable? That's what I'm trying to be rational here.
And I understand. Are you saying that if you don't perceive something with your senses, it doesn't exist? Are you saying that? Because I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Of course, it's impossible for somebody to say that they're perceiving something in their mind, and they didn't perceive it through the senses, by which any perception in the mind would be able to be there.
Okay.
There's an impossibility there.
Let's use that and see if there is consistency, right? Is the principle of cause and effect something that can be seen?
It can be observed, yes.
Okay, so I'm not talking about the results of cause and effect. I'm talking about the thing itself, the principle itself. Can you see it?
Of course not. We already established that.
Okay, so that similarly, I can't see Yahweh, but I see the results that I would expect if Yahweh exists. You can't see. Okay. You can't see cause and effect.
Examples of the results of Yahweh.
I just told you. I told you that the universe is orderly. The universe has intelligence. Sure. Consciousness, personality, rationality, order, structure, existence itself, and so on. And there are more I could say. Like transcendental categories like laws of logic, truth, objective morality, objective truth. These are the things I would expect if Yahweh exists. I see the results. Similarly with you, you would say that the principle of cause and effect is a real thing because you see the results of it. However, you have never seen the thing cause and effect. But if you're saying that your standard is, if you don't see the thing, it doesn't exist.
Can be observed.
No, I don't think you can observe the principle.
Can be observed.
Okay, what does it look like? What's it called?
All principles can be observed. Nothing. We cannot come to any rational conclusions about anything unless the principles are observed, and we're bound to follow those principles in order to continue to develop as a humanity, as a species. It's impossible for us to ignore those principles and develop as a species.
Right. So again, what does the principle look like? What's its color? What does it weigh? What's its essence? What is it?
What do you mean? What is it? It's a principle. You can observe them.
Okay, so when you observe it, what does it look like?
Say again?
When you observe it, what does it look like? What's its color? What color does it have? You see what's happening, bro? I'm using your standard. I'm using your standard.
Because you're looking for the principle to be in physical form. It's a principle. It can't be in physical form.
Okay.
What you can do, what we're observing is the activity happening in real time.
Okay, so you would say that you have not perceived with your senses the principle because it's not in physical form, right?
I don't know. You're not making sense. That's like saying right now we're speaking to each other, and I can't observe the words that we're speaking to each other.
Oh, you can hear the words,
So
though.
the
You can hear the words because you're using your senses to hear the words. So the words do have some physicality. So I'm going to ask you again. Since you said that if you can't perceive something with your senses, that it's probably not real, how is the principle of cause and effect not real by your standard?
Okay. For example, if I want water to be boiling hot, I take the water, I put it on the stove, and I boil it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? There's a cause and effect that happens that's observable. I can't see the principle of cause and effect, but I know that it's the principle of cause and effect that's causing the happening of these events.
So you're seeing the result of the thing, but you're not seeing the thing.
You can't see a principle. You can't see laws.
Okay, perfect.
You can observe
perfect.
them.
I can't see Yahweh, but I see his result and I see what I would expect if Yahweh exists. See? It's very easy. That's a Christian worldview. We don't see him, he's a spirit, but since he's the creator of the universe, we would expect to see certain things in the universe.
You're attributing, first he's Yahweh, then you call him a spirit. You're attributing things to it, right?
I'm simply telling you what he has revealed in his word. He calls himself a spirit.
Now you're using a pronoun. Now it's a he. Now you're even going as far as using a pronoun. So now
that's what the Bible says.
How are you justifying these things? You've called it a spirit. You've called it a he.
That's what the Bible. That's how the Bible.
What are we doing here?
That's how the biblical authors describe Yahweh, as a he, as a spirit, as the creator.
Do you see the irrational concepts that are coming behind what you're stating?
By what standard? What standard are you using?
I said it's a principle and it's law. I've never called attributed pronouns or nouns to it. You've already attributed a noun, a pronoun, and called it a spirit.
Right, and I'm saying to you that the standard that you're using for accepting the existence of Yahweh, you're not using it for the principle of cause and effect, which means that you're inconsistent, is what I'm saying. You're inconsistent, man.
There's no inconsistency with law.
I'm talking about you, not the law.
There's no inconsistency with law.
I'm not talking about the law. I'm talking about you. Your criteria is being violated when you accept the principle of cause and effect, but do not accept Yahweh's existence. That's an inconsistency there. But we're going in circles, man. We're going in circles. So I guess what I have to do now is ask you, what is your worldview? Are you a naturalist?
Assertions, bro. You've made into a he. You've made a positive assertion to a Yahweh. You've made a positive assertion to a spirit. These are claims that you're asserting.
Have you read the Bible?
And you're not establishing any of them.
King, have you read the Bible?
What does that have to do with establishing your claims?
Because all of what I said about Yahweh came from the Bible. So, have you read the Bible?
All right, I rest my case, bro. Have a good night.
Have you read the Bible? Okay. Have a good night, man. All right. So, guys, just want you to see what happened, right? He made a criteria for accepting the existence of Yahweh, in that you have to perceive him with your senses. If you have not perceived Yahweh with your senses, then you're not justified in accepting that Yahweh exists. So then I asked him, have you perceived with your senses the principle that you say is ultimate, cause and effect? He said no. He has not seen cause and effect with his senses. So then I pointed out to him that you are violating your criteria of belief when you reject Yahweh but accept cause and effect, because you have not seen or perceived with your senses cause and effect. So I'm glad he showed his inconsistency. And, that's a problem a lot of us face with people like this. All right, let's see what this person has to say. And now Hugo is asking me, what is a spirit made of? Your question is presupposing naturalism. So my question to you, Hugo, would be: how do you know that naturalism is true, and how do you demonstrate it? Because I am not going to be subjected to a criteria or standard that is not true or has not been demonstrated to be true. So, show me, um, is naturalism true, and how do you know it's true? Let me see. So we have Metatron. Metatron. Good night, man. How you doing?
Hey, bro. I'm on Team Theism. I just wanted to quickly point out something. Maybe it'd help you. You probably already know. But when an atheist appeals to, say, principles or truth or things like this, these are universal terms, right? But in an atheistic worldview, fundamentally, they believe the universe is chaotic and random. So why would they appeal to something like truth if it could be up for change, say, tomorrow or in the future, anytime in the future? It seems self-contradictory. You know?
Yeah, it is.
They have no universal foundational substance to employ things like truth.
Right, right. It's a worldview of inconsistency and contradiction, man. And I was just pointing out one of those inconsistencies with the guy that was here just now. He said that he's not going to accept Yahweh's existence because he has not seen Yahweh or perceived him with his senses, but he thinks that the principle of cause and effect is that which is ultimate. I'm like, okay, let's use that. Let's see if you're consistent. Have you seen or perceived with your senses the principle of cause and effect? He said no. So I'm like, okay, don't you see that you're inconsistent? He's like, oh no, I don't see it. I don't see it. I'm like, bro, these people make atheists look stupid, man, and they're not all stupid. They're not all stupid. It's crazy.
And another thing I'm trying to look into, it's called lexical legality. So, for instance, if an atheist wants to say truth is subjective, the qualifier would have to be that they would think that statement was true. Therefore, it is objectively true. Something is subjective. So, I've been looking all around the internet. There hasn't been much discussion or study on it, but yeah, I'm finding there has to be like a lexical like pattern inside of language for it to make sense.
Right. Right. I'm gonna have to look into that as well because I never knew there was like a term for it. But I always point out to them that if you say that truth is subjective, you are making an objective truth claim, and that's a form of contradiction.
That's what I'm saying, brother. So, like making up this study like with ChatGPT at the moment, it's like lexical legality, or
Lexical
like
legality.
the qualified law of word sentence structure. So yeah, so when you speak a lexicon, it has to be structured in a certain way for it to make sense. So like you just figured out. So if an atheist is going to assert subjectivity is true, the lexicon qualifier for that would be objectivity.
Right. Right.
Otherwise, it's just an opinion. You know, they can't. If it's not objectively true, it's just an opinion. It means nothing.
Exactly. And that's all they have, man. That's all they have. But thank you so much for coming up, bro. Thank you so much. Keep me in your prayers.
Good job.
Thank you so much, man. Thank you so much for coming and keep me in your prayers. All right. God bless you. All right. Let me see here. Hugo. Where's Hugo? Where is Hugo? Oh, there he is. I'm going to invite you again, Hugo. See if you're going to come up. Wait a minute. I think I spoke to Hugo before. Or maybe it was Darth who spoke to him. I can't remember. But guys, just always point out the inconsistencies that you have from the atheist. Always point it out. Always show. All right? All right, I'm going to bring up my friend here, Darth. And he's going to take over the live for the time being. I'm going to go check on my daughter. Hey, Darth.
Sky Daddy. Spaghetti Monster.
Yo, take over the live for now. I'm going to go check on my daughter. Hey, guys, come up and talk to Darth.
Okay, if anyone would like to come up, ask questions, you're welcome to do so. If you want to challenge the existence of God or the Christian worldview, you're also welcome. We do not tolerate trolling. If you want to bring an intelligent objection, well, listen. It never ceases to amaze me the intellectual ineptness and incompetence of skeptics. Well, the flying spaghetti monster concept is just a parody. It's of sarcasm. It is nothing substantive. It's typically what atheists do when they don't have a rational defense that God does not exist. That's why it's rare for atheists to even attempt to falsify God's existence. They typically just simply resort to pro-God. Okay, well, why? Because they're adopting what is called the presumption of atheism. So that's because they can't falsify God. Because if they could, they wouldn't ask for God to be proven. They would just simply say that's ridiculous. I don't ask flat earthers to prove the earth is flat, okay? Because I know that's a waste of time. I just point out how the world is spherical, although I don't talk with flat earthers. Come on up, R34. All talk and no action. Come on up. Back up your statement. There, I sent you an invite. First of all, saying God is possibly true entails the falsity of God, which, because you're uneducated and inexperienced, you wouldn't understand. Okay, God is not within the category of possibility. Since God is characterized as a necessary being, to talk about God being a possibility is to refer to him as though he was a contingency. All right, so again, you're just another person on TikTok is uneducated. If you don't affirm and acknowledge the necessity of God, you are, in effect, denying God's existence, whether you realize it or not. Yeah, there is no atheist who can defend the non-existence of God. It cannot be done. I've gone up against atheists with PhDs, and they all equally failed miserably. I don't have the foggiest idea of what you're talking about, Grim, but if you want to come up and explain, you're welcome to. As far as I'm concerned, most people who opine on the subject don't know what they're talking about. There are even theists out there who behave as badly as the atheists do. As far as I'm concerned, people are guilty of being idiots on the subject until they demonstrate to me otherwise. God's existence is clear. It's overwhelmingly clear. But atheists reject this because they're committed to a false belief that they are autonomous, independent operators, and they don't want to acknowledge the obvious that the world appears to be designed. I haven't committed any slander. Come on up, King. Explain to me how I've committed slander. Come on up. I've been dealing with atheists for over 16 years, almost on a daily basis. I speak with quite accuracy about them. By the way, I apologize. I'm on the tired side. I just woke up. Guy said I was slandering atheists because I was criticizing them from my personal experience.
Well, King said that cause and effect is what is ultimate, not
Yes.
Yahweh.
Yes.
That is so stupid.
I'm quite aware that that was a misspeak, okay? I frequently say things incorrectly as a tongue-in-cheek to see if people will notice it. Ask Adrian, I do it all the time. No, our position is God has revealed himself in creation, that he has made the creation appear to be the product of ultimate intentional design with the rational impossibility of denying it through trying to say that it's an illusion of design by naturalistic phenomena. He made it impossible for people to rationally deny the appearance of design.
Then you're contradicting the worldview itself. It's like you're saying, it's like someone saying, my worldview.
Welcome, Knowledge. What would you like to talk about?
Yeah, hey, how's it going? I'm trying to see what you guys are talking about.
Yeah, we're Bible-believing Christians. We defend the existence of God, not just any God, the Christian God, and atheism is irrational.
The worldview you're using provides you with probabilistic confidence about a claim. It does not provide you with certainty.
Would you like to comment on the topic, Knowledge?
You guys are Christians, okay.
Do you have something to add, Knowledge?
For saying we have reality and we know that the grounding of reality has a correspondence. I guess he didn't have anything to say. It would be like saying a rock produced consciousness. There's a very big gap that cannot be filled because the rock itself. So I caught this atheist in a problem. So he said that he doesn't accept Yahweh's existence because he has not perceived Yahweh with his senses, but cause and effect is ultimate. So I asked him, have you perceived cause and effect with your senses? He's like, well, no. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. You're inconsistent. You're contradicting your criterion of belief.
Cause and effect would be a process. It wouldn't be ultimate.
Yeah, I told him, and then God is the grounding for cause and effect. But
you see how stupid people are? People on TikTok are so stupid.
And then we had a comment from a guy named Hugo. What is a spirit made of? I'm like, what? The question itself shows how stupid you are.
Well, no, that's incorrect. It's very easily answered. If you go to 2nd Hezekiah, spirit is composed of Rice Krispies.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to tell him. Rice Krispies next time.
Yes. Snap. Echo and Bob. I like Rice Krispies with bananas. What is the cause of energy? God. God is the ultimate cause of everything, and it's impossible for that to be rationally denied. And you will all stand before God on Judgment Day. Every knee shall bow, every tongue will confess that Jesus is Lord. I had somebody ask me a good question today. They said, when every knee will bow and every tongue will confess that Jesus is Lord, they said, will they do that under compulsion or voluntarily? And I said, no, they're going to do it voluntarily, because they're going to be so overwhelmed that with the revelation of Christ as Lord, that God will remove all possibility of even irrational denial. You see, right now, God is subjecting them to a temporal judgment where they fall victim to their own gaslighting. But on Judgment Day, they will be so overwhelmed with the glory and the greatness, which is just right now beyond our ability to describe it. they won't have the option of irrationally denying it.
Right. There is no rational denial.
Novel John, I wish you people would not say such colossally stupid things. You don't know what you're talking about when it comes to metaphysics. But if you'd like to come up, I'll be glad to explain to you why this is entirely false. Come on up, Novel. Okay, you haven't studied metaphysics. You see, I've studied a bit of metaphysics and theology. Not enough to my liking, but I know enough to know that what you're saying is simply incoherent. But because you haven't studied it sufficiently, you're not aware of the fact that what you're saying is not coherent. Their whole reaction is just one of emotion, mockery, and scoffing. There's no underlying substance to what they're saying.
Dan wants to hear the argument. Give him the argument that you usually use.
Well, come on up, Dan. I'll be glad to explain it to you. I don't like talking to people in the text because people in the text typically are losers. So if you want to come up, I'll be glad to explain it to you. What do you want me to explain, Dan?
I just joined in, so I don't know what the topic was, but I was interested in hearing what you were saying.
We're just trouncing atheism as being incoherent, and God's existence is overwhelmingly clear in spite of those who object.
Okay, so I mean, what type of atheism are we talking? Are we talking about like the positive affirmation that there is no God, or are we just talking about just the belief that someone who just doesn't believe in a God?
That's still the denial of God. It's just implicit and indirect denial.
Okay, so I mean, in this case, like myself personally, I just don't believe that a God.
You're still denying God. That still constitutes an indirect denial of God. So you're denying God.
I mean, sure, that's fine. I mean, that's okay. But for the purposes, I guess, of the conversation, like, I guess, what is it that I'm missing as an atheist?
Well, what you're missing is you have gaslighted yourself to believe that your position has some semblance of coherency. It doesn't. The denial of God is impossible. It's a performative contradiction. So a performative contradiction is a proposition or a statement that is in some way self-referential, that contradicts or undermines itself. Or the proposition or statement is undermined or contradicted by the background information or content that would be required in order to sustain the proposition. So when an atheist says there is no God, implicit within the declarative is the proposition that they can affirm and deny things rationally in a God-independent world. But in a God-independent world, without an identifiable ultimate, such as God, revealing itself and enabling us to affirm and deny things, then there's no basis to rationally affirm and deny things. Therefore, such affirmations in a world that is claimed to be God-independent would be irrational, not rational, because there's no final context or frame of reference.
Right, okay, so can you, could you break that down in a way, how could you demonstrate that, right? How could you demonstrate that without
did. If you just focus on the content, it demonstrates itself. So only in a world where God is, where he is the sum of all perfections, God revealing himself, he then constructs a world where he enables us to know that he exists. And he enables us specifically to be able to rationally affirm and deny some things according to his plan. When that is rejected, there's no final metaphysical context that is indicated or defended that dictates why anything is or why anything is not. So as a consequence, all such affirmations in a God-independent model of reality distill down to pure arbitrariness. So to assert that there is no God is a performative contradiction. It's self-undermining.
Right. I mean, I understand the claim.
I guess, how did you come to that conclusion, though? Like that, this idea that we can't know anything without God. Like, because the only way to know things is that you would have to have a ground of all being that is God, who is ultimate above all things, and who knows all things. He then constructs and operates a world by which he permits us, according to his plan, to know things. If you remove God from the equation, then true non-arbitrary knowledge becomes impossible. Okay, so let's just say, for example, I'm not well versed in metaphysics, right? So I guess what is to stop us from saying that this rationality and truth just comes from the mind? Like, why is that not an answer? Why does that not work? Because human beings do not dictate all that is and cannot be. Therefore, whatever mental state you have is from a realm of chaos. There is nothing identifiable or defensible that dictates what is or cannot be. So when the human mind invokes what is and cannot be, it's arbitrary. So God is not only the necessary precondition for everything, that also includes our capacity to be endowed to know some things. Deny that God is the necessary ultimate precondition for everything, including knowledge, and one has entered into a performative contradiction. And so you're saying that if all rationality and logic and truth is from the mind, then that just means that everything is chaos? Or can you, I guess, I'm just trying to understand what you mean by that. I'm trying to understand. You have both everything is chaos and consequently absurd by virtue of you have an ontological and an epistemological problem. So epistemologically, you couldn't know what the final context is. Number two, even if you couldn't know what it is, any ground of being that would be invoked, unless it is characteristically the sum of all perfections, then you couldn't know anything, because God must be perfect in all respects. He must be a perfect being who then creates the world, and he does so in perfect wisdom, perfect knowledge, and omnipotence to enable us to know things. Absent the sum of all perfection being the ground of all being, endowing us to know things, then whatever you want to posit as the ground of all being, then it would be short of the characteristics or the essential properties of the sum of all perfection, therefore disabling one's ability to know things. So could you give, if we could use like a real world example, like what would be a statement that you think would be absurd under the, like, if there was no God? Like, what is it exactly that I can't? Everything upon examination would be an absurd statement if you exclude God as the final ontological referent, because then it will just simply be an arbitrary declaration. You couldn't even rationally say the sky is blue, right? Because what would account for skyness and blueness? Right. So, in order to speak intelligibly of your world, some things must remain the same. Do you agree? I guess it would depend on what you mean by that. I guess this is not rocket surgery, okay? If blueness does not stay the same in some respect, then to say that something is blue would not mean anything. So blueness must remain the same ontologically and epistemologically. Otherwise, blueness would not mean anything. Well, what if it were the case that, what if it's kind of like, how could I put this? Like, almost like a popularity contest. Not so much that there is some. I'm not getting through to you. You're not getting this, okay? Rational predication requires a number of fundamental parameters without which it cannot be rational. So in order to rationally predicate, say, the sky is blue, right? Certain things must be regular. If nothing is regular, okay, nothing remains the same, either ontologically or epistemologically, then rational predication, I should say, becomes impossible. Okay, do you understand that, or do I need to go over it again?
That's the part where that's the part that's throwing me off, because if all the modes are
okay, if I say to you, the sky is blue, is that a rational predication?
I would say so, yeah.
Okay, but its rational predication depends at least, but is not limited to, that skyness and blueness remain the same, both ontologically in terms of its nature of being, and epistemologically in terms of its conceptualization and a knowledge standpoint. So rational predication requires, as a precondition for its rationality, that certain things are regular. But it is not limited to that. It's far deeper than that, but I'm just showing you the basics. So if everything is changing and nothing at all has regularity or remains the same, then rational predication is impossible. Because if skyness and blueness change both ontologically and epistemologically from one time index to another, then what would it mean at T4 as opposed to T1? What would it mean to say the sky is blue? It wouldn't refer to anything. Okay?
Right. Well, I guess I have to think about that. It's interesting.
So rational predication requires that there be an arena, if you will, or an environment that some things are regular while other things are irregular. So we have both continuity and discontinuity, regularity and irregularity. These are fundamental parameters of existence. Now, unbelievers will be tempted to agree and say, okay, fine, but why do we need God? Say, well, then you're removing God from the equation, that God is the ultimate regularity, who cannot fail to be, cannot fail to persist, and his mind, his purpose, his plan, and his power actualizes and sustains all that is regular. If you remove that, then you have to give an account for what it is that is in and of itself absolute, meaning it's absolutely regular, and that it actualizes whatever contingent regularity there is. You just can't take regularity for granted. Regularity has to be accounted for.
What is the formal name to this argument? I guess I would like to do more research into this and learn about it.
Well, it's called the transcendental argument for God.
Okay, God is tag. Okay.
Now, not all proponents of tag do an equally good job, and although tag can be very simple, tag is simple. You can teach it to a child, but at the same time, it can also be expressed in a very sophisticated way, and communicating it accurately takes a little bit of practice, because it's not always easy to articulate it, not because it can't be expressed simply, but because people are not accustomed to thinking from a transcendental perspective. They take too many things for granted, and then when we call into question what they take for granted, they think that that's subversive, but it's not. So I spoke with one of the smartest atheists in the world, Graham Oppie, and I posed him with a surgically precise question derived from the transcendental argument for God. I asked him, well, he said that naturalism had equal explanatory power with God and the natural world. I said, how is naturalism even coherent? I said, what accounts for all the identity states or the unity in the world? What actualizes that? And his only answer was, I see books on my shelf. I didn't ask him, does he believe that there are identity states and unity and diversity in the world? I said, what actualizes it? what institutes and secures any aspects of identity states and diversity as a fundamental parameter of existence without which we couldn't speak intelligibly? Well, he had no answer, and the reason he couldn't, because he's a God denier. You cannot rationally account for unity and diversity in the world being actualized without the self-revealing God.
Interesting. Well, I'll definitely do some research on it. I appreciate you running it by me. I'm going to think about it. And
by the way, the vast majority of critics don't even understand, let alone accurately represent tag. But thanks for coming.
Yeah, thanks.
Welcome, Sam.
Could you explain what you mean by the diversity in the world?
Okay, so if I say to you, the dog and the cat are on the grass, I have just expressed unity and diversity. The dog is an identity state, a state of unity. The cat is identity state, and the dog is not the cat. They are distinct and diverse from each other. Okay, and they're also distinct and diverse from the grass. The cat and the dog, as a set, are not the grass, and the grass is not the cat and the dog. So the cat, the dog, and the grass each are respectively identity states or states of unity, but with respect to each other, they're distinct and discrete from each other. So we have unity and diversity. Okay. So unity and diversity cannot be from a God-independent world. Only the self-revealing God, the God of the Bible, can provide for a rational underpinning for any invocation of unity and diversity.
That's quite the opinion.
So when unbelievers think that they can rationally account for the world or even rationally speak of the world without referencing God as the necessary precondition, they're just fooling themselves. And even atheists with advanced degrees fool themselves on this point because they're not thinking transcendentally.
Okay, that's some quite the opinions you got there.
Well, it completely defeated one of the world's smartest atheists.
You're sure about that? Because
yeah,
go on about your God or what
okay, sir. Hey Sam, go onto YouTube and type in Darth Dawkins versus Graham Oppie. Okay, and you will see prima facie evidence that he could not account for the actualization of unity and diversity. All he could do is that he'd state that he sees or believes in unity and diversity. That's not an answer to the question. I asked him, what is it that institutes and secures unity and diversity?
So what scientific theory is this under so I can
it's not a scientific theory. It's
it's your opinion again. There we go. It's your
opinion. Hey, Sam, please don't be so stupid as to embarrass yourself.
I'm not embarrassing myself. You're embarrassing.
Sam, I've actually studied.
Just read something, then you make it your opinion.
Okay, you're reacting to me like a teenager, and I don't want to have to embarrass you because I'm significantly more educated on the topic than you are.
And I know, I see that.
Do you want to do? Hold on, hey Sam, I'm a co-host here. Okay. Now, if you want to tangle with me intellectually, I'm game for it. If you want to be an obnoxious teenager, you're going to get blocked. So if you want to tangle with me intellectually on the point, I'll be glad to converse with you, but I can guarantee you're going to be embarrassed.
How can I argue with when all you're doing is stating your opinions?
Okay, you're continuing with an immature reaction.
It's not a reaction, I'm just pointing out a fact.
Hey, Sam.
No evidence.
Okay, Sam. Do you understand that all evidence, in order to be evidence, has to be undergirded by propositional pronouncements?
Yeah, and you haven't done any of that.
Now, do you understand that evidence? Okay, hey Sam, if you can listen to me, if you continue to bicker with me in the manner that you're doing, you're going to get removed. You are not saying anything intellectually substantive. I'm trying to educate you on something that I am significantly. Goodbye, you're a dumbass. You see how dumbassery these people are? These people are they're fundamentally stupid on this topic. And so this is what they resort to. Rather than discuss it intelligently, they just get sassy. They just get rude, right? Oh, that's just your opinion. Well, I could play your game too. I could say, well, that's just your opinion that it's only my opinion. Where does that get us? That's an anti-intellectual response. It's because you don't have an intelligent, substantive rebuttal to what I had to say. Welcome, Venus.
Hi. So can I get a definition for atheism? Because I want to know what definition you're using before I address the claim.
We are using the standard definition of atheism in the English language and the standard definition in philosophical reference works. Atheism, and I'm going to qualify it slightly. Atheism is either the direct or the indirect denial of God or gods.
Okay, so it's holding a position that, or it's not being convinced by a concept of a God.
Wrong. No, that's not what I said.
Okay,
I said nothing.
See, this is what I mean. And let me pull up the definition right now, because that's what it says from the
Venus, you were talking to somebody. Hey, Venus, let's have a conversation here. You need to understand that you're talking to me, and I have done a significant amount. Okay, hey, Venus, if you're rude again, I'm going to kick you out of here. Do you understand?
I'm sorry, Darth.
Goodbye.
What? What did I do? I'm sorry.
You rude woman. Okay? These people are morons. They think if they go Google something,
I mean, if she Googles positive atheism, she's gonna get the direct denial of God, and that's what I'm talking about, positive atheism.
These people are ignorant morons. They simply do not know. Venus, I'll bring you back up again, but you better act like an adult, or you're going to get kicked.
Now, Venus, look up positive atheism. What is positive atheism? Because that's
okay.
But Darth has taken over.
Okay, so Venus, you need to conduct yourself maturely, and not a teenager with a bad attitude. Now, I have surveyed as many dictionary, encyclopedic definitions, and including philosophical references. The standard definition in the English language of atheism is the disbelief and denial of the existence of God. Okay?
Okay, that's great. So if someone was to be a positive atheist and to assert that no gods exist because they posit a contradiction, or simply the fact that there's no evidence, what would your evidence be in response to that?
Your question is not clear.
If someone thinks that no God exists because there's lack thereof evidence, what evidence would you give to them to demonstrate that it exists?
I would first try to explain to them that their position is not merely that of an expression of incredulity, that they're unconvinced. Their position upon analysis entails either a direct or an indirect denial of God. The denial of God is a performative contradiction. It contradicts itself upon analysis. Once we get that on the table, that the denial of God, be it direct or indirect, is incoherent because it's a performative contradiction, I would then move on to explain that the entire world is emblematic of that which actualizes it. The world also, in addition to that, overwhelmingly and uncontroversially, meaning it's not up to debate. The world uncontroversially appears to be the product of ultimate intentional design. This is something that atheist academics by the dozens who have gone in print agree with. Yes, the world appears to be designed, but they then go on to qualify that it's an illusion of design facilitated by naturalistic phenomenon. But that's an impossible position to defend, and it actually is. They're smuggling in their atheist teleology when they do that. Okay.
All right, I understand that. I just simply wouldn't believe that it's designed until I'm provided with sufficient evidence outside of patterns
So
we observe in nature.
You're not comprehending certain
I literally am. Like, let's just do. I wrote the points down.
Hey, Venus.
Stop! You talk so fucking much. I'm writing down all the points.
Goodbye, you dumb witchy woman. Okay, you lack class and character. You're not self-aware of your own limitations. You did not understand some of the things I said, and I can tell that by your response to me. Okay, that the world appears to overwhelmingly be the product of ultimate intentional design is not controversial. It cannot be argued against that there is an appearance of design. That's an impossible thing to argue against. Now, what you then can only argue is that the appearance of design is, oh, please, can you believe that? That's ridiculous.
Do you see it too?
Yeah, because I said she was witchy. Unbelievable.
It came from my page too. I mean, goodness.
That's just unbelievable.
You know, the Bible speaks about not casting your pearls before swine and dogs. Yeah. Because I quoted that verse the other day, TikTok restricted my page for like 10 minutes because I said that.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous. So we have people like this that they're not educated on the subject. They're not aware of their own intellectual ineptness on the topic. They're not even comprehending to a sufficient extent what I'm saying because they're inexperienced, and most of all, they're not comprehending it because they can't get their heads out of their butts. Okay? So the fact of the matter is, I am presenting, when I argue that the world appears to be designed because it is, with the impossibility of the contrary, this cannot be refuted. Okay? So the world overwhelmingly appears to be the product of design. So, for example, we could talk about the anthropic principle. So the anthropic principle can be stated in a soft or hard way. And the anthropic principle basically communicates the idea that there is an appearance of design. This is why atheist academics agree. Yes, the world appears to be designed, but they reject that the appearance indicates that it is design, and they therefore adopt the rationale that it is an illusion of design, but this is not something that is sustainable or defensible. So, unfortunately, people like her, they have a lot of chutzpah, they have a lot of attitude, but they're not firing on all cylinders in terms of their critical thinking skills.
Oh.
Okay. Welcome, Kevin. Who's your favorite apologist? Is it Adrian King or is it Darth Dawkins? Be careful how you answer. Kevin.
My favorite apologist, I don't know. I probably have to give it to Kelly Powers.
Not me?
Man, I feel like I've been waiting all night to come in here to ask you a couple questions, brother.
Okay, go ahead, Kevin.
Yeah, so Friday night, I was hosting a live stream and I was dealing with Roman Catholicism and Eastern Orthodoxy, right? I had this Eastern Orthodox guy join the panel. And I asked him, I said, sir, is it true that there's no salvation outside of your church? And he said, yes, ordinarily. And I responded, I said, sir, it's either the case that I have to be a member of your church to be saved or not. And he said, no, there is an exception, ordinarily. And I said, well, what is the other option? He says, I don't know. And he claims he's not violating the law of excluded middle because there are exceptions. So I wanted to ask your opinion on that. Is it truly dichotomous or am I missing something?
What are you saying? Okay. His response. Okay, so he's denying the true dichotomy because either it is the case that the Eastern Orthodoxy Church is the sole conduit to salvation, or it is not the case that it is the sole conduit and that there are other ways to get to salvation. So he's basically right. So he's adopting one pole of the dichotomy that the Eastern Orthodox. Excuse me, I'm tired. He's adopting that the Eastern Orthodox Church is not the sole conduit to salvation.
Right, and then when I asked him, so what is the other means, and he says, "Oh, I don't know. God is sovereign, though. I'm not going to limit him."
Well, where do you get that from?
Right.
Yeah, they just make it up as they go
I just
along.
want to check with you because I ran it through Google AI, and I said, "Is this a violation of the law of excluded middle?" And
What I want you to do, do you have the link to the cloud resource?
Yeah, you gave it to me, I think, last year.
Okay, well, it's probably a new one by now. Send me a DM and I'll send you the new one. When you get the link, go to the cult folder. In the cult folder, there's a folder called Eastern Orthodoxy. In that folder, I want you to check out 3 books. And by the way, there's also a number of pro-Eastern Orthodoxy books just for research purposes. The first book is called High Church Heresy. Okay? It's a really good book critiquing both Eastern Orthodoxy and Roman Catholicism. The second book is called Are You Biblically Orthodox? Right? That's a pretty new book that came out. The book is written from a Reformed theological perspective. I myself do not hold to certain Reformed distinctives, but nonetheless, it is a superb book critiquing whether or not Eastern Orthodoxy is biblical. Another book in there is called Is Eastern Orthodoxy Christian by Dr. Robert Morey, Morey. Any one of those books and together will be an excellent resource in order to properly evaluate and discern the heresy of Eastern Orthodoxy.
I'm well aware of the problems with it, but I just wanted to check with you. Did I present a true dichotomy? Because he's trying to say...
Yes, you did. Yes, okay. You expressed it in the form of a true dichotomy.
Thank you, because he was confused, because I ran the transcript of our conversation through Google AI, and Google AI said because he said ordinarily it's not a true dichotomy, implying there is an exception to the
No.
He wasn't able to give the exception.
No, he didn't understand the dichotomy as it was presented to you. So he's accepting the pole that Eastern Orthodoxy is not the sole conduit to salvation. Because what he's saying is Eastern Orthodoxy is a conduit to salvation, but sometimes there are other ways. So that is a negation that the Eastern Orthodoxy Church is the sole conduit to salvation. Okay, if anyone else wants to come up, you're welcome to come up. Atheism is incoherent. It is a performative contradiction. God's existence is clear. The world overwhelmingly appears to be designed, with the impossibility of claiming that it is an illusion of design. All right. Thanks for coming, Kevin.
Isn't atheist teleology an oxymoron?
In one sense, it is, but it's a useful descriptor of their strategery.
It's more like atheists have non-teleology because they believe in like a purposeless world.
What they're saying is the origin of everything constitutes not God. So it is a kind of teleology. Negative atheism is a term that some philosophical wonks in the confines of their literature will define negative atheism as lacktheism. For example, that self-identified agnostics are negative atheists.
Negative positive atheism.
Yeah, so as far as I'm concerned, everybody who refuses to acknowledge the necessity of God is a positive atheist. It's just that some positive atheists are very transparent about it, and other people are covert positive atheists, and they hide behind the false characterization of negative atheism.
I hate that those terms, positive and negative atheist, because like any positive claim can be just rephrased to be negative. So
well, there are a few philosophers out there who, within the confines of their own writings, will break it down into positive and negative atheism. But in certain instances, we have to use it because it's nomenclature within certain aspects of metaphysics. However, we should be critical of that breakdown. I understand why Adrian is doing this because he wants to forestall people going, "Oh, I'm an atheist and I lack belief."
Yeah, I'm tired of it, man. I'm tired of it. And this is something you can look up and you actually get a definition that it's a positive claim there are no gods in existence. So if they look it up, they will see the same thing.
We're trying to be very precise in our terminology so that we can swat them like we have an electrified tennis racket.
I understand what you're doing, but it's like aggravating how ignorant people are. That you have to
hear what I said, Adrian. I said we're being very precise with our terminology so that we can swat them with an electrified tennis racket.
You're right. I'm coming. All right, guys, do you think I'm gonna go run an errand? I'll be right back.
Okie dokie.
Let me mute my mic. Hold on. There it is.
What's your argument against an atheist realist grounding for their objectivity and reality? I don't even know what that even means. Come on up, Metatron. I have no fear of any atheist. I've gone up against the finest. There's not one of them that can defeat the transcendental God.
What would you say? You know, like a lot of these atheists are objective moralists or philosophers, or they believe in like a natural objective morality.
Yeah.
That's what you're arguing against that.
Yeah, well, they're fools. Go ahead, Metatron.
Yeah, because I debate some atheists and they ask them if they're universalists or objectivists or absolutists, and they say yes, but they ground it in reality itself, where a theist would ground it in God, right?
That's incoherent. Okay, reality is a token of abstraction. Reality is not a concrete natured entity. It's a conceptual set.
Hey, by the way, Metatron is on Team Theist, okay? So he's not opposition.
Gotcha. So a lot of times, look, most of your atheists have no idea what they're talking about. And even those atheists who may have a philosophy degree under their belt don't know what they're talking about because they're operating from autonomous reasoning, and autonomous reasoning is self-contradictory.
Yeah, so I would sort of say to them, if you believe there's no ordinance or governance in the universe, and you employ things like truth or logic, how can you do that when you think that the universe is random chaos? So therefore, tomorrow or any time in the future, the laws of logic or truth could change, right? Because there's no ultimate ordinance.
They don't care. They don't care because their prime directive is to preserve and protect their false belief that they are independent players on this planet. So they will say anything that entails cognitive dissonance. They don't care. Okay. And they don't want to ruthlessly examine their own position, lest their own position be exposed as a self-contradiction.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of lexical hijacking going on. I'm looking into this thing called lexical legality. And for instance, if an atheist wants to say truth is subjective, to qualify that statement, you'd have to employ objectivity.
That's a performative contradiction right there.
I would ask them, when you argue that truth is subjective, should I believe that?
Well, that's what I'm saying. So if is truth subjective, I'd say is it objectively true? Truth is subjective, and of course they'd say yes.
I came up all on my own with a genius analysis. I say to them, is that authoritative or optional? And I work very hard to come up with that analysis.
Sure.
It's like an optional claim doesn't really challenge a non-optional claim, right? If I'm making a non-optional claim and they're making an optional claim, like that doesn't do anything to my non-optional claim.
Is it authoritative that I came up with that a proposition is either authoritative or optional? Is that authoritative or optional? Pre-sub.
There's Greg Watson, I think. I think I got the idea from you because you would talk about authority a lot.
Yeah.
And, like focusing on authority.
I'm just teasing you.
Hey, and hasn't Richard Dawkins already been refuted in his evolution yet, or is this still ongoing theory?
Evolution hasn't even been substantiated. Evolution is a joke. They haven't solved the combinatorial problem. Okay, so they just assume. He even wrote a book on this called "Climbing Mount Improbable." That even though the improbability of mutations aided by survival events building entire genome is so astronomically remote, he says, it's not like we're taking one step and climbing a mountain. We're taking one step at a time. But the probabilities are still the same. This is how close he is. Now, I'm not going to throw him under the bus. He's a very intelligent man. He's very well educated. But he's woefully wrong. I would love it if I had the opportunity to converse with him and confront him on an open stage. I would do so in a heartbeat. Right? This idea that random mutations aided by survival events produce the genome of the animal kingdom, there's nothing visually or experimentally to support that. Beneficial mutations do nothing to support the notion that the accrual of random mutations could build the genome of the animal kingdom. It's virtually statistically impossible for that to happen.
It doesn't matter though, because like so many people believe it's true. It's like functionally true, because like the whole world is convinced it's true. So it's like
I just asked them, is a canine still a canine, or is it changed species? And what other species apart from a canine gave birth to a canine? I've never seen that happen. I've never seen a species give birth to another species.
Yeah. So, you see, the reason for the dominance and the consensus is not because of real science. It's because the alternative of special creation is intolerable to those people who gravitate toward naturalism.
That's what I was just about to say. It's the cap of naturalism and materialism, right? Yeah. And I think the whole survival of the fittest.
Yeah, naturalism and materialism has crept into the natural sciences.
Yeah. I see.
As well as, for example, cosmology is partly metaphysical and is partly a scientific investigation. But people think that it's entirely scientific, and it's not. Like when Neil deGrasse Tyson, with his little Cheshire cat smile, says we are stardust. He thinks that he's advancing science. He's not. He's advancing a metaphysical position that stellar nucleosynthesis produced or created all of the higher elements of the periodic table. First of all, that's not something that's observable, testable, or repeatable. Number two, the higher you go up on the periodic table, the virtue, it becomes crazy thinking that this could be, the higher elements could be developed in the furnaces of stars. It's hugely problematic. But because Neil deGrasse Tyson is an atheist, he's a naturalist, a materialist, they want to make these seemingly scientific statements that our creator are the stars, okay, rather than God.
you know, and it's capped in with the whole, is consciousness generated from the brain, or is it an outside source? That caps them in their naturalism as well, right? Because your consciousness only stems from your brain, as they say. So again, it becomes a subjective thing.
Grieving widow, I unblocked you. I make it a policy to unblock people who don't have a history of stalking. Aussie, are you here to apologize for your backstabbing?
Yeah, actually, I am.
Good, go ahead. Get close to your microphone.
Can you hear me better?
No, your microphone sounds like you're far away.
Okay, I have my AirPods on. Let me go and get rid of them. I'll be right back.
Just adjust them. A lot of people ask me, Darth, have you talked with Alex O'Connor? I go, not yet. I would love to have a conversation with Alex. That would be fun.
Can you hear me better now?
Much better, thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah, I would like to publicly apologize for what I said about you in the past, Darth.
Okay, do you realize that in the incident in question, I was not bullying the host. I was just simply requesting that he mod me in the correct way because the stalkers were posting extremely defamatory statements about me?
Yes, I do. And I was actually the host, so yes, I do. That was absolutely...
No, we're talking about another instance where you were there.
Okay, what instance is that?
That was where there was another host. I don't remember who his name was. Okay.
Paolo would be their name, right?
I don't remember. But the fact of the matter, I wasn't bullying anybody. I was just reiterating in an assertive fashion to mod me because it was not getting properly done, where the host acknowledged that they did mod me, and I said, you didn't mod me correctly because I cannot remove these people. Okay?
Yes. So yes, I do remember that. And that was in fact me. That was
okay. Well, then my recollection is a little bit off. So we'll move on. Okay, water under a bridge.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Would you like to talk about anything else?
So I happened to come across a live regarding the topic of evolution, and I guess the only thing I would like to add is, and this is not new to people who study this stuff, if it were the case that Darwinian evolution were a fact, it would never be able to be rationally justified because of natural materialism.
Are you trying to offer a kind of Plantinga argument against evolution?
I'm not sure. What Plantinga argument are you referring to?
He argues that if evolution is true, we couldn't know that evolution is true because evolution doesn't select for truth. It selects for things that survive. It's called the evolutionary argument against naturalism.
Then no, although I think I agree with that. No, that's not my position. My position is that if Darwinian evolution were a fact and there were no dualism, it was just the brain and not the mind, then you could never reasonably conclude that anything you believe would be true because it would be the result of brain chemistry.
That's great. Your current state of mind, and as opposed to somebody who would disagree with you, both of your minds that are antithetical to each other would have been deterministically caused, and it was not through a reason process.
Correct.
Yep. Yeah. So it's self-defeating.
Yes. Exactly. Yep.
I'm seeing a lot of clowns make comments in the text. You're free to come up here and challenge. Most of you are godless wonders. which we know already. So come on up.
I think one of the main problems with atheism is knowledge itself is comprehensionable. So there are degrees of comprehension when you employ knowledge, and I just think atheists are in a lower comprehension degree to a, say, a theist.
Most of them are not in any way sophisticated or knowledgeable on metaphysics. And those atheist professionals who do have some knowledge of metaphysics fail miserably because they're refusing to consider a transcendental analysis. Welcome, Free Nod. What would you like to talk about?
I just want to know the evidence you have for the affirmation of the negation of atheism being true.
Could you repeat that, please?
What evidence do you have that you can present that atheism is false?
It's a performative contradiction, first of all. I could start with the revelation of God in creation and that the world overwhelmingly and uncontroversially and rationally, undeniably appears to be the product of ultimate intentional design, with the impossibility of arguing that the world is an illusion of design. That's for starters. Number two, atheism is a...
Hold on. I'm good. Can we stop it at one? So you said that revelation is proof that atheism is false?
The world as it presents itself to us is an environment of revelation of God to us or not. Do you understand the true dichotomy?
So you're saying that the world as it's observed is revelation of God, and how do you arrive at that conclusion?
Sir, you're not exercising critical listening skills. I presented you with a true dichotomy. I'm asking you, do you recognize the true dichotomy? I will repeat it again. We are either in an environment, as the world presents itself to us, of revelation from God to us that the world reveals God, or not. Do you recognize the true dichotomy?
Yes. And so for the is not to be true, then there must be evidence that the observable world is revelation from God, and how do you justify that?
The world is revelational from God because, first of all, the world would have to appear to be designed, for starters. The world overwhelmingly and uncontroversially appears to be the product of ultimate design. This is something that atheist academics, in the corpus of their own published books and scholarly papers, admit that yes, the world appears to be the product of design, but they then qualify that uncontroversial acknowledgement by saying it appears to be design because it is an illusion of design brought about by naturalistic phenomenon. Now, the denial that there is an appearance of design is not sustainable. It's the appearance of design is uncontroversial. What would be considered controversial, that from the appearance of design we conclude, therefore it is. Okay?
I reject that there's appearance of design. What evidence do you have that it's by design?
So what you're now doing is you're calling into question that it is controversial that the world appears to be designed. So everywhere we look,
can I just
if you fucking interrupt me one more time, I'm gonna block your...
Stop rambling.
Okay, goodbye, and you're blocked. Okay, you rude person.
You're an idiot.
Yeah,
you coward piece of shit.
You're a low character.
You're a coward.
Bye. Goodbye. See you later. You're blocked. See you later.
Now get ready for
that's right. You're already blocked on my account.
Are you having a hard time pushing?
Yeah. So what you do is you come up here and you feign. You come up here and you feign. Excuse my French, everybody. I should control myself. But I've dealt with people like this before, and they deliberately are rude and obnoxious as a tactic.
Yes. You can't invite people up that with the name Free Nudes, please. Like that just says enough.
Well, I'm not familiar with the name, but he is blocked on my account. Now he's blocked here. So what he was doing was he was feigning cordiality.
Darth.
He was feigning that he was approaching it intellectually, but what he was doing was incrementally being verbally disruptive as a tactic. And I had enough of him.
You don't have to be familiar with the name Free Nudes. Hello? Free Nudes, Darth?
Oh, mean like Nude?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I just saw NOOG. Okay. So the bottom line is that this clown, this intellectual lightweight, thinks that they can invoke that the appearance of design is controversial or objectionable. It's not. Anyone who says that the appearance of design is objectionable is an ignoramus or a liar. This is why atheist academics, by the dozens, have gone on record admitting, yes, there's an appearance of design, but they continue to qualify it by saying that it's an illusion of design, but that's not sustainable. Welcome, Slow. What would you like to talk about?
I was hoping that you could help me figure out how you extract truth from appearance.
Okay, so you're getting another account and coming back, right?
Is that?
No, it's the first time I've ever talked to you.
Why do you sound like the previous guy?
I think that happens.
I have no idea.
Okay, so truth will have to be adopted in terms of a positive propositional representation. Do you agree or disagree? That's lovely, Adrian.
I would disagree that truth is adoptable.
Okay, have a nice day.
Truth is either true or it is not true.
You're not understanding. Okay, so if somebody advocates that something is true, is it in virtue of a positive propositional representation or not?
Yeah, that's how deceivers would convince somebody
Dude,
that
I'm
what
not
they're saying
playing your
is
little
true.
teenage game, okay? So if you don't wise up and start responding to me like an intelligent...
So the level of truth that you present is the same level of truth that a deceiver presents?
I'm not playing your little teenage game. You're not being removed because you disagreed. You're just being a teenage contrarian, okay? So you are not accepting that a truth, in order to be rationally invoked, would have to be putatively backed up by a positive representation. Otherwise, then you're guilty of saying truth is apprehended and advocated without a positive propositional representation, which would be insane. These people deal with these idiots. So you see, they ignore what I say, and then they just ramble. They're dishonest. They're deceitful. So there is an overwhelming appearance of design in everything that we look at, and including a self-referential examination of our own self-consciousness. For example, in philosophy, or in science, they talk about the anthropic principle. Okay, both of which, the weak and the strong anthropic principle, hint at or convey the appearance of design. Okay, but you see, when these Viagra-induced God haters out there, they're equating the appearance of design with the same thing as saying, you like that one, Adrian? I would check.
Viagra-induced?
Yeah, they have a Viagra-induced hate fetish from the God.
Viagra-induced hate fetish.
There's no thinking going on with them. It's literal automatic gainsaying. So no matter what you say, they'll just go, nuh-uh. They're not like,
nuh-uh, bro.
No, I had this guy do that to me tonight, and I'm like, bro, I'm never gonna have that done again. It's because he's saying I'm unconvinced, and everything I tell him, he's saying I'm unconvinced. Nuh-uh, no. I'm like, you don't even have a position that you're using to.
This is what idiots do.
Boy, that was so frustrating. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, because any atheist can cheat in the conversation and go, nuh-uh.
Well, in a debate, your job isn't to convince them. So, as a debater, you're supposed to present your view, an argument, and then your opponent is supposed to present a counter argument because the burden would be shifting back and forth. What they're doing is just appealing to incredulity, and that is sneaking in dogmatically just their view. They're just basically dogmatically asserting their view in a passive aggressive way.
Well, I say it's that they're using their philosophy of fact to reject your claim, but the philosophy of fact has a worldview, and they won't tell you what the worldview is.
What they're doing is, rather than offer a formal rebuttal of what you are advocating, they invoke incredulity, okay, which is camouflage hiding their non-rebuttal rebuttal.
Yep. I'm like, that's never happening again.
May I ask a personal question? What is the thing you're stuffing up your nostrils?
It's an inhaler. It helps those who have bad sinus problems.
Okay, gotcha.
Can you have bad sinuses with a nose that big?
Man,
he doesn't have a big nose.
I think it's because my nose is big, because you bring more stuff inside.
Your nose is not that big.
You bring more inside.
Your head is big, but your nose isn't.
I mean, I think it's the hair, but
wait a minute. I think we're onto something here. Your head is so big, that's why it appears so small.
That's a good one.
Yes, no, you're going to give him a complex. Adrian's a good-looking guy. He doesn't have a big nose.
Thank you, Darth. Thank you so much.
No, I've seen a lot of ugly people in my lifetime, and you're definitely not an ugly person.
Thank you so much.
Discriminate against the uglos, but they do exist.
I'm ugly on the inside.
Oh gosh, did you ever see Guardians of the Galaxy 3?
I want to get all those on Blu-ray. Yeah.
Okay, they're pretty good movies. It's pretty good movies. There's this alien woman here. Yeah, there's Drax is this really stupid muscular guy, and he always tells her, because he's so stupid he doesn't control himself, that she's ugly, right? And at the end of the movie, it's all tear jerking. They save themselves from destruction, and Drax says to the alien woman, he goes, "You're beautiful," and then he pauses and says, "On the inside."
Yo, Drax is very funny. I love Drax.
Oh my gosh. I thought all three of the movies were good. I thought they were very entertaining. I love Drax. He's so funny.
You can't help but laugh. He has very the actor. They gave him really good scripts.
Yeah, I like the actress who plays that kind of android character, who's the sister of
Nebula. Her name is Nebula.
What a great actress she is. She's so good.
Yeah, I'm right now. I'm excited for Avengers Doomsday. Can't wait to see it.
No, that should be fun.
Oh.
Okay. Hey, Resurrected, learn that P. Mars is quite sarcastic. All right, Slowy's coming back. We'll give him a second chance.
Wait a minute. Is that Ozzy? Are you and Ozzy good now, Darth?
Who?
You and Ozzy.
Are you talking about Ozymandias from Clubhouse?
Oh, he's here right now. Or maybe it wasn't him.
No, I think he's asking, since I apologize and you accepted my apology, are we good?
Yeah, because the last time you said that you and Ozzy were not really talking because Ozzy did something.
Well,
but
I just got hit with a brick, and I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, I'm glad that you guys are good now. I'm glad. Darth is a very forgiving guy.
I can be at odds with people. If somebody wants to try to reconcile, that's fine.
I mean, Darth is a very forgiving guy because Darth forgave the guy who said, what was it, Joel reads Bible? Darth forgave him, but he didn't want to talk, and then he got blocked again.
Well, Joel is a fool.
I'm not talking with. I'm never. There are certain atheists I'm never talking to because they don't take a position. They have a non-committal position, And everything you say to them, they're like, I'm unconvinced. I'm unconvinced. I'm unconvinced. No.
Okay, so here's the deal. They're not accurately representing what the true nature of their position is. This is their shtick. It's to invoke or camouflage themselves as advocating incredulity. Okay, they're not incredulists. They're either directly or indirectly denying God. And this is the genius of Van Til that I learned of him, emphasizing clearly what the Bible teaches, but you can read about it in a survey of a Christian epistemology in the first third of the book, where he rips to shreds the idea of the possibility of neutrality. So when people invoke incredulity to represent the nature of their position, this is false. They're not merely, look, if somebody says I'm unconvinced, I can say, yeah, I agree with you. But that doesn't obscure the fact that you're still indirectly denying God.
Yeah, I'm going to start using that.
So think of it this way. Every self-identifying atheist who openly denies God is unconvinced that God exists. So when they tell us that they're unconvinced, what does that even mean? Okay, so they're trying to deploy neutrality, or that they're suspending judgment, when in fact they have made a judgment about God's existence and they've made it to the negative.
Yeah, that's why agnostic atheist is a contradiction in terms, man.
It's so nauseating when people go, I'm an agnostic atheist. Anytime you see a YouTuber or a TikToker identify as an agnostic atheist, you know right then and there that they're ignorant metaphysically on the topic. Even some of the more well-practiced and well-studied atheists like Matt Dillon who will say they're an agnostic atheist, that's a statement of ignorance when they say that.
Yeah, Mark Herman as well.
Mysterious Galaxy, you are too funny. This is their shtick. Or that is their shtick. Oh, Mysterious Galaxy, you too funny.
Tits. Okay.
Yes.
Hey, can I ask you guys a question?
Sure.
So do you guys think truth is a moral word? And if you don't, I still think it heavily is the presupposition framework that employs morality.
Is truth an explication of morality? I would say no.
I think he means if something is true, ought we, should we believe it? Shouldn't we believe it if it's true?
Well, that would be an ethical principle about ought we to believe something that coheres with the ontological status, meaning that things are real.
Do you hear what I'm saying, though? I literally think that truth is fundamentally a moral word.
All right, I would
aligns with what God is, right? And
I would disagree with you. I disagree with you that truth is whether or not a proposition conforms to the mind of God. Now, ought we conform ourselves to the mind of God? Yes.
That's where I agree. That's where I would say that truth is a moral word.
So, for example, suppose.
But then, if you're not conforming to the mind of God, isn't that immoral?
So I think at a foundational level, yes, but there are going to be some things that people are going to, due to their own inability, that they might not agree. Okay. Now, there might be moral infractions or ethical infractions toward God that leads them to adopt something that is not true, but the moral condition or the ethical compromise is a precursor to adopting a false proposition.
And if I can add to that, I think you're equivocating on the word truth.
Yeah, truth is what conforms to the mind of God. Now, ought we conform to the mind of God? Yes, but that's a separate thing. Okay, so not conforming to the mind of God is an ethical position. So I understand where you're coming from, and although I don't technically agree with you, what you're saying, what your position is very close to the position that I would hold to. We ought to believe the truth.
Yeah.
I just think there's a lot of lexical hijacking going on from atheism to theism.
What if somebody holds to a proposition that is false through just poor discursive reasoning? It may not be because of an unethical disposition toward God. It's just that they're mistaken.
But
Okay, let me put it this way. What if I say to you, I quote a particular verse that is in Luke rather than Matthew? Okay. Did I truthfully cite the reference? No, I didn't. Is there an ethical compromise in adopting that non-truth proposition? No, I'm just mistaken. But is it the case that when people deny many truth statements, they are ethically compromised? Yes.
But I still think lack of ignorance itself is an ethical issue.
So if I misremember that a verse is in Luke rather than Matthew, is that an ethical violation?
I think so, because
really
you should be exercising what is true more so than what is not. So if
you're talking about what we ought to do, okay? So if I have a lapse in my memory and I misattribute it to Luke rather than Matthew,
okay,
that's not necessarily a moral lapse.
So if someone employs a lot of immorality, so it does really wrong actions all the time, do you think that's going to affect their memory?
No, I could just have a momentarily brain fart and have a miscited reference, which I have done and everybody has done.
But the case is, I think that if you employ more good morality, your memory.
Okay, let me ask you this question. When somebody says the fruits of the Spirit, okay, that is technically inaccurate. It's
fruit.
It's materializing.
Is there ethical compromise that it underlies their invoking it as a plural rather than a singular? What's the ethical compromise that leads to that miscitation?
Well, I would think if you were more moral, you would have greater understanding.
No. The fact that somebody has a mistaken recollection, it doesn't necessitate moral compromise or an ethical violation.
It's like liars. They find it a hard time. They remember more. They have to try to remember more, where honest people don't have to remember as much.
Well, Metatron, can I ask you a question real quick? Are you saying that somebody who is less educated in math is less moral than somebody who is more educated in math?
No, I'm saying someone who is more moral would probably be in a higher knowledge field of math than someone who is immoral.
What led you to believe that conclusion is true?
Because I would say that the more immoral you are, the less healthy your biology will be. Therefore, your understanding and all these things will be affected from that output.
Right, but all you did is reaffirm the claim that you made. I'm asking you, how did you reach that conclusion to begin with? All you did was give me another example of your claim.
I'm sort of giving it like a reducto on the maximated state of an immoral person or a moral person.
No matter where you're correct, is there are ethical violations that are the precursors to the denial of truth propositions.
Yeah.
But not every misstatement of a truth proposition is undergirded or has a precursor of an ethical violation. So if I misremember that a verse is in chapter 2 rather than in verse 3, it doesn't mean that there's an ethical violation. I have a lapse in my memory.
I don't know, I just think everything hinges on God's truth.
Is every lapse of memory an ethical violation?
It is, but it's very minor.
That's ridiculous. No, that's absurd. That's patently absurd to say that every lapse in memory. Okay.
Like, hold on. If someone gets Alzheimer's, it's probably because more so they've had unhealthy biology than someone who has healthy biology.
Sir, this is ridiculous. Okay, absolutely ridiculous. Okay.
Oh my God, before you say everything conforms to the mind of God.
Somebody could have certain ethical violations that motivate them not to retain certain information and then to forget it. But not all lapses of memory have precursors of ethical violations. That's patently absurd. So if I misremember an actor in a movie and I conflated another actor played the role rather than the actual one, is that an ethical violation?
Sure.
Okay. Goodbye. Yeah, you're crazy. Yeah, we're done. I'm gonna remove him. That's just crazy. So they're saying a lot.
What? Another one?
Yeah, all lapses of memory are ethical violations. That's just screwball. That's crazy.
I got another notification, man, about restriction. Just because you kicked the guy? What is going on here?
No, because I said he was crazy.
You can't. Yo, somebody needs to buy TikTok and take away all of the censorship.
No, they did buy it. It's just that they haven't sufficiently revamped the algorithms. Okay, the TikTok America was bought out by an American consortium headed up by Larry Ellison.
They need to remove all the censorship, almost like X, but without allowing porn. Just don't allow porn, because if they allow porn, we're gonna have problems.
Before the buyout, I was regularly getting my accounts banned. That's not happening to me in the same frequency, and it's not because I'm behaving better. No, this idea. I mean, this is just crazy thinking to say that all memory lapses are an ethical violation. That's just ridiculous. It may be the case that somebody is lapsing ethically, which they refuse to retain certain information. So certain memory lapses can be attributable to ethical lapses, but to say that all memory lapses are ethical in their origin is just absurd. That's just crazy. You know, your wife sends you to the store. You know, buy some sliced turkey, ham, and Jamaican cheese, and some ginger ale, and potato chips, and you forget the ginger ale. Are you ethically compromised?
No, he has a very unique position, man. I never heard that before.
It's crazy. I mean, just think about it. Every memory lapse is an ethical violation. I mean, it's ridiculous. No, I kicked you because you were tripling down on crazy. Okay, and I didn't want to hear any more of it. I mean, that's just insane talk. That all memory lapses are ethical violations. It's ridiculous. Did you catch my joke earlier, Adrian? I talked about Jamaican cheese as opposed to American cheese.
Oh no, I didn't catch that one. It says my appeal. They said my appeal is not approved. Oh boy.
That's only for 10 minutes anyway.
Yeah. Whatever. They need to get rid of the censorship, man.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. No, there's no modal collapse. Okay, when it comes to truth cohering to God's mind.
Hey, Darth, while we're waiting for someone else to show up, within the last couple of weeks, I've been watching a lot of your content on various different YouTube channels and stuff. And I recently rewatched the discussion you had with now I can't remember his name. He's a very well-respected atheist philosopher.
Graham Oppie?
Yes, thank you, Graham Oppie. The whole books on the shelf thing.
Yeah.
I'm curious. Why are so many people like praising him for his intellect? Like I'm not overly impressed with anything I've heard him say.
Well, he's not nearly as impressive when you listen to him, but when you look at his literature, he has a very deep and profound intellect.
On what topics? Out of curiosity.
Atheism. I can recognize that he's dead wrong and ultimately incoherent from a biblical perspective. That doesn't take away from him that he's a man of keen intellect.
So, does he have, like, for lack of better words, better arguments for atheism?
No, but he stipulates them in a very articulate fashion. Okay, so even William Lane Craig, whom I have a love-hate relationship with, not personally, but
he praises Oppie too.
Yeah, he says Oppie is scary smart. Oppie is a very smart guy. He's not nearly as impressive when you listen to him on YouTube. Okay, but when in fact, in the cloud drive in the atheist folder, I have a lot of Oppie's books, and you read through them. This is not a stupid guy. This is an erudite philosopher. Am I impressed by his atheist arguments? Absolutely not. I was able to defeat him with just a simple question. Do I think I'm as smart as he is? Absolutely not. But he was defeated by God's revelation, not by my smarts.
Yeah. Honestly, I mean, I'm just interested in your guys' perspective. I think the word smart is entirely subjective. Like I think probably everybody is smart with particular topics where somebody else might be completely ignorant.
Yeah. That's why I said that everyone is an ignoramus in some fields.
Yeah, like I honestly, I don't know
yourself, Adrian King.
Yeah, like for me, I don't know anything about engineering. I'm completely ignorant in engineering.
Me too.
But I'm pretty well educated in philosophy.
No, really, look, don't be dissuaded by his poor presentation for that. He's an erudite philosopher. He is. It's just that some people are better in the classroom than they are in interviews. Graham Oppie is not. He's not very good at interviews. Yeah, you don't believe me? Just peruse through his books. Okay.
Yeah, so if you were going to steelman his strongest argument that you're aware of, what would that look like?
As far as my understanding goes, he just adopts a kind of, and I could be mistaken on this because I haven't extensively, read his stuff, but his position has to do with parsimony. That the atheist position is parsimonious. In other words, it has fewer assumptions and is therefore to be adopted.
Yeah, that's a non sequitur. Occam's razor is a non sequitur.
I know it is, but that's what he adopts.
To me, that's not impressive to ground a claim in a logical fallacy.
I agree with you, but that doesn't mean that he doesn't have a keen intellect as a philosopher. Take, for example, Carl Sagan. Have you ever watched Carl Sagan? Carl Sagan was a brilliant astronomer, but he made numerous philosophical mistakes.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah. Yeah, I think that kind of goes back to my point. It was like, the word smart is kind of relative, to a particular subject. And ignorant,
the guy got a PhD in philosophy. That's not an easy thing to do.
Yeah, sure. But the thing is, you can memorize, pragmatically certain material to ace a test on. It doesn't mean you philosophically grasp the concept.
Yeah, but to get a PhD we're not talking about getting a PhD in the various brands of Jamaican cheese. We're talking about getting a PhD in philosophy. You have to have a very broad and extensive and deep understanding of the history of philosophy and many of the divisions within philosophy. And people who aren't smart aren't going to pass. Adrian, you didn't get my joke.
Oh, I was looking at it. I was trying to find one of the books that you sent me. My bad.
I said it's not like somebody gets a PhD in the varieties of Jamaican cheese.
Right. I mean, the unfortunate reality is you could get a PhD. Well, not a PhD, probably. You can get what's it called? Oh, geez, now I'm blanking on the word.
We're not talking about getting a PhD in women's studies.
Yeah. You could get a degree in lesbian dance theory. That's not impressive.
All right, let's not go there, Ozzy. We're on good terms now. Come on.
Yeah, I didn't say that to be offensive to anyone. I'm just driving the point.
Teasing you.
Lesbian dance theory. People get degrees in gender theory. People do.
Right, which a degree is entirely subjective too. A degree doesn't mean anything. Not objectively.
Before you get a PhD in gender studies, you have to learn how to emphatically say, "It's ma'am."
Yeah.
Yeah, and you have to be threatened to go home in an ambulance, which is not where ambulances take you.
Isn't that a priceless scene?
Yeah, I laughed really hard when I saw that clip.
I mean, guys, if I was living in America, nobody could get me to say, well, anybody, man, if I clearly see a woman, there's no way. It's not going to happen.
Do you know, from time to time, I see these tranites show up on TikTok, and it's just like, it's so, and some of them it's just like, look, putting on lipstick doesn't make you look like a woman.
And it's funny to me, and we probably, most of us probably have read this, but it's like, the Bible, it's demonstrating the truth of Scripture, where it says, like, toward the end, men will forget how to be men and women will forget how to be women. We're seeing that.
Well, it says that they will not listen to sound logic.
Yeah, I think that's universal amongst everybody, not specific to, one or another gender.
No, the more people deviate from God's revelation, they deviate from sound logic.
Yeah. They're going to accept what their itching ears want.
Yeah. So Oppie, if you look at his books, he has a quite a depth of knowledge, in the philosophy of religion. He's no fool. Okay, but he was easily defeated by a question derived from the transcendental argument for God. Nobody can withstand a properly formulated question in a transcendental argument. It's just the nature of the subject. You cannot. A question based upon God's revelation is not defeasible.
Yeah, and honestly, his answer was very surprising to me at the end, which he had to kind of repeat the question a few times for him to finally answer. But his answer is, "Well, I see books on my bookshelf." That's an embarrassment. Yeah, that's pretty bad.
I want to do a shout out to Scarhead777. I just want to let you know, Scarhead, you're on probation. You need to work on getting rid of that lisp, okay? It's excuse me, not excuse me. Okay, so you are on probation, Scarhead.
Out of curiosity, Darth, because I know you've been doing this for like 17 years. What was the initial motivation that led you to start really hardcore studying in, apologetics, philosophy, religion?
Well, I've always been interested in the defense of the faith, but not in terms of a formal study of apologetic works, because I didn't come across that many skeptics of Christianity, but I was always interested in understanding biblical theology and a defense of biblical theology. And since biblical theology and apologetics significantly overlaps, what really tipped my interest in really studying it further was when I started playing on Xbox Live. I began to run into a lot of idiot atheists, and I realized that this was an area of evangelism that was needed. And so I then gravitated from debating atheism and evolution on Xbox Live to other online platforms.
Oh, wow. That's interesting. That it started with gaming. That's cool.
Yeah, I had no intention of getting into, these kinds of interactions. It happened because I kept on dealing with people who are idiots. Not that I consider myself a super genius, but when you try to methodically explain things to people, a lot of people just don't exercise critical thinking skills.
Oh, you can absolutely know that with confidence because of the number of religions that exist in the world.
Look at Mysterious Galaxy. I used to trash atheists on Grand Theft Auto 5 before I met Darth. Then I moved, I found Pal Talk, which was kind of like a cheaper version of Discord. And boy, were those atheist Looney Tunes. But my screen name was Evolution False. And so every time they would get upset with me and argue with me, they would say evolution false. So I trolled them. I got them to say evolution is false over and over and over and over again. They would go, listen, evolution false. You're wrong, evolution false. And they kept on saying evolution false all over and over and over again.
Yeah, didn't you call into the atheist experience under that moniker?
Yes.
Yeah, I thought I did. Yeah, I've seen episodes.
No, actually, it wasn't the atheist experience. It was a sister YouTube show. Talk Heathens with Eric Permboy Murphy.
Yeah, I've been on that show about a dozen times myself. Yeah.
And if you see the first encounter, he literally had a psychotic meltdown.
That is funny. Yeah, I do remember that. I remember a couple episodes, yeah.
And the second occurrence, he refused to take my questions. He just instead tried to do bully tactics.
Yeah, I do remember that.
Well, Matt Slick and I have interacted on about 2 occasions on Calvinism, and we didn't agree, but we're still friends. Matt is still a great Christian apologist.
Yeah, so that's funny you say that too, and I realize that it popped up in a comment here, because I've also really been impressed with Matt Slick when it comes to Christian apologetics, and when I looked into Calvinism, I was actually really surprised at how easy it was to show that Calvinism is not biblical. So the T in tulip is total depravity. You're so sorry for the TikTok language, dead in your sins. You can't even comprehend the gospel when it's taught to you. So it's bizarre.
Just for the record, Adrian is of the Reformed persuasion, and I don't agree with the Reformed distinctions, but I wouldn't offer that. I think they're incorrect, but. Adrian, are you missing a finger?
Yeah. Lost it when I was 3.
Oh, okay, because I'm like, how does he bend his finger under like that?
No, it's not there. It's gone.
Okay. That was, I'm looking at your hand, I'm going, boy, that must hurt.
Nah, it did hurt about 26 years ago, but it doesn't hurt anymore.
If you don't mind me asking, how did you lose it?
Well, when I was 3, I climbed up on a stack of blocks, and I was told to come down. On my way down, I slipped, and I grabbed the block to catch myself, and it came out of the stack. So we went down together, and it landed on my hand, crushed a finger. This is Jamaica, so we don't save limbs in Jamaica. We cut them off.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
But you know what? It may not have been recoverable, you know?
Yeah. I met this guy who had his foot severed, and the doctors were able to put it back on. So I'm like, they could have saved my finger if I was living in the States, but it's not one of those things.
Yeah. Well, that happens. I went through a glass window when I was 11 years old, and I could have bled to death, but fortunately, I didn't. Of course, a lot of atheists wish that I had. So,
I'm glad you didn't, because I wouldn't have had so many books now.
Well, yeah.
Let me ask one question regarding Calvinism, and then I'll jump off after that. I'm not, but I'll just for the sake of the audience, am I mistaken in saying that the T in tulip is total depravity, which means that people are so, again, apologize for the language, dead in their sins, they cannot even comprehend the gospel when they hear it?
No. What that would mean is that they are unable to submit to the lordship of Jesus Christ and believe the gospel. They can know and understand it, just not believe it.
Okay, so is it what's the right way to put it? Is it a requirement that in order to accept the gospel, it has to be given directly from God, direct revelation?
Well, no, it's through special revelation, through the scripture.
The Reformed position is that because of the noetic effects of sin, the unbeliever is in a state of inability to repent prior to regeneration. So the Reformed position teaches that one must be regenerated first, and as a consequence of the regeneration, they are irresistibly drawn into repentance and faith in Christ.
Perfect. How does regeneration occur according to Calvinism?
What's that?
The Spirit of God.
How does regeneration occur according to Calvinism?
It occurs by the Spirit of God. Jesus speaks of it in John chapter 3, where he says that the wind blows where it wishes, and we don't see where it's going, but it does what it pleases. And then he says that is how the Spirit of God works with reference to being born again. So regeneration occurs before faith, and then faith occurs afterwards.
Okay, so is someone directly responsible for their own regeneration?
No, they're not. The same way we're not responsible for our own birth. We did not participate in being born. We're not participating in being reborn.
Okay, so somebody who is regenerated is regenerated specifically because God has ordained it, right? And no other reason.
Because of unconditional individual election.
Yeah. So before the foundation of the world, God has selected who will be who the elect are and who the non-elect are.
Okay, so what comes first, regeneration or salvation?
It's actually we call it logical order instead of a temporal order, because once you're saved, once regeneration takes place, there is sanctification, justification, salvation that all happen at the same time. So there's no before or after. But we say there's like a logical order where in order for someone to believe the gospel, they have to first be transformed, changed, regenerated.
Okay, which is out of their control, correct?
Right. The same way before we were the same way our very existence is out of our control. Our salvation is out of our control. It's not up to us, it's up to God.
Yeah, so I think that's a category error, but that's fine. So if what you're saying is true, that's a direct contradiction of what Paul says in Romans 10:9. So
Can you
it's
quote it
either
again?
hold on 1 second. It's chronologically, it's either true what Paul says in Romans 10:9, or it's true that God preordains someone to be saved. It can't be both.
Can you quote Romans 10:9?
Yeah, anyone who confesses with their mouth that Jesus is Lord and that God has raised him from the dead. So that biblically is what leads to salvation. But in Calvinism, that's not chronologically correct.
Well, I'm not a Calvinist, but
Hold on.
the verse that you're presenting, the Calvinists would say that presentation is not in conflict with the Reformed distinctive.
Yeah. It's not. It's not in.
Yeah, they'll say that. What's their justification?
1 Corinthians 12:3, which is written by Paul as well. It says, therefore.
So they believe that the in
Wait.
the Reformed distinctive, they hold to unconditional individual divine determination of a person's eternal destiny. And so they believe in individual unconditional election as opposed to the other view of what is called corporate election.
Yeah, so just to respond to what you said in Romans 10:9, I affirm that wholeheartedly. I just believe that the Spirit has to do something to you first before you can confess that Jesus Christ is Lord. And the proof for that is 1 Corinthians 12:3, where it says, therefore I made known to you that no one speaking by the Spirit of God says Jesus Christ is accursed, and no one can say Jesus is Lord except by the Holy Spirit. So to even confess that Jesus Christ is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you can't do that unless the Holy Spirit works in you first.
That passage in and of itself, non-Calvinists would agree with that. So it can't be used as a Reformed distinctive.
Yeah, I would agree that, non-Calvinists can agree with it as well. I'm just responding to what he said, that there's a chronology in Romans 10:9. I can affirm that and say the Spirit has to do something first, just to say. Because Darth is a Molinist, so he has some similarity with me, but not directly the same.
So the issue between the Calvinist and the non-Calvinist is how we're to understand the semantic range of certain verses. Okay? So, for example, when it says in Acts 6:44, no man can come to me unless the Father who sent me draws him.
That's John 6:44.
What's that?
It's John, actually, John.
What did I say?
Acts. You said Acts.
I'm sorry. I'm tired. Okay, so John 6:44. That's what happens when you get to be 64 and...
I'm not faulting you, Darth, but the other guy would have. You would say that you committed a sin because you were mistaken.
I had a memory lapse, so that was an ethical violation.
Yeah. You just sinned. You just sinned, man. You got to repent.
In John 6:44, the Calvinists will cite that, saying no man can come to me, as a textual support of irresistible grace. Now, the problem here is this. Yes, semantically it can mean that, but the question is, can they show by logical necessity that it has to mean that rather than something else? Okay?
That's a good question.
That the Calvinistic meaning of it is logically necessitated by the context, but when you look at John 6 in that section, the context does not logically necessitate irresistible grace, although semantically the verse could support that.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to look into the logical necessity because I never considered that before.
And so when we go to each of the proof texts, then the question is the mistake that people make is just because it's semantically possible does not mean it's contextually authorized. So, for example, Jehovah's Witnesses will say, well, Jesus is the firstborn of all creation. Well, granted, it could meaning first created, meaning firstborn is a metaphor for first creating. But the firstborn, when we look at it elsewhere in Scripture, is a title of preeminence and of inheritance.
Right.
So the fundamental dispute, in my opinion, between the Calvinist and the non-Calvinist over specific verses has to do with the semantic range of the text. Okay? And I could go through many verses, but I don't want to get into
Yeah,
an
it's not. This is not a debate about Calvinism. Yeah. I was just answering
Right.
Ozzy's questions on it.
Yeah, my question was strictly chronological when it comes to what Paul says and what the Calvinist claims are. But also, I just thought of this, and again, I'm going to go soon. I'm not trying to turn your live into a debate channel. If the TULIP acronym necessarily needs the T to be true for any of the rest of the acronym to be true. So when you get to P, Perseverance of the Saints, it seems to be completely irrelevant that Perseverance of the Saints is required because you already have the salvific grace from the U. So why would perseverance even matter, right?
But that's just we're talking about the prolonged manifestation of what had taken prior before.
Yeah. TULIP.
Right, but
TULIP.
what that implies, perseverance of the saints implies it's possible to not be saved to begin with.
I think.
To not be saved.
I think
it's a response to the Arminian position that salvation can be lost.
Right. I was just about to say that TULIP is actually a response to the Arminian position, and the reason why it's TULIP.
Response to TULIP, isn't it?
I'll say what?
If I'm not mistaken, Daisy is the response to TULIP.
Daisy.
Yeah, is that wrong?
What is Daisy?
He loves me, he loves me not.
Yeah, Daisy is the opposite acronym opposed to TULIP.
No, somebody can hold to the perseverance of the saints and not be a Calvinist.
Yeah, because I was just about to say.
That's true. But in order for Calvinism to be true, perseverance is a necessity for salvation.
The 5 points are inseparable.
Yeah, they're connected, and they're what. If you go on carm.org, for example, in Matt Slick's presentation of this, he shows where there's a biblical foundation for all of the letters of the TULIP.
Right, and I'm not ignorant to those. I'm very well educated in Calvinism and the scriptures they use to support it. But irrespective of the scriptures, if we just use logic, it is logically necessary for the T in TULIP to be. I'm sorry, for the P in TULIP to be true.
Okay, so if you want to have a deeper understanding of this from a non-Calvinistic point of view, there's a book called The Augustinian Foundations of Calvinism. Yeah. And it traces Calvinism, who was indebted to Augustine. Calvin quoted Augustine several thousand times. I misspoke the other day. I said that Yahweh was referred to 2,000 times. It's more like 5,000 times, I think. But Calvin quoted Augustine more than anyone else, over 2,000 times. So to understand Calvinism more sufficiently, you need to understand Augustine. And Augustine, when he first became a Christian, was not advocating for divine unilateral predetermination of an individual's eternal destiny. But after about 12 years, he started changing his presentation. And so one critic, Ken Wilson, said it took him 12 years in order to have these 5 distinctives, without which, if you don't have all the 5 distinctives, then the whole scaffolding collapses. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
But that's a really good book.
I'm supposed to have. I think I should have it in the library.
It is in the Calvinism folder within the anti-Calvinism folder. Within the Calvinism folder, there are some books that are unsorted, but then there are 2 folders, both pro-Calvinism and anti-Calvinism.
Yeah.
And if you look in the anti-Calvinism folder, there are probably some of the best representative critiques against Calvinism. But I also include pro-Calvinistic works within the pro folder.
Yeah, and the bottom line is, guys, if I think that you can have. Wait, how could I say this? All error is not heresy, but all heresy is error. So someone can have. Someone
Adrian,
can have.
I had a knockdown, drag-out debate on Calvinism a couple of weeks ago, and I told him if he lost, he'd have to braid his hair. Well, sure enough, he showed up with his hair braided a week or so ago, but he's since removed the braids because he doesn't want to admit to people that he lost.
No, we don't. We don't want to do that. So Ozzy. How I see it is, all heresy is error. Not all error is heresy. So someone can say that I'm inaccurate or I'm incorrect in my beliefs on Calvinism, but if I affirm the gospel, saved by grace through faith and things like that in the essentials, I'm a Christian just like anybody else. So these are things that we can have conversations about, but at the end of the day, we're still brothers in Christ and we're still love with each other and stuff.
Yeah, and honestly,
you know what though? But you know what? There was a manuscript of Paul's that's rare that was recently confirmed. I think it's called P94, and it says only those who are born again have all 10 fingers.
Yeah, that's in the Ethiopian Bible too, I think.
I'm gonna look at that. I'm gonna go look it up. It probably get a fake finger.
Well, I do have another question, Adrian, if you happen to have an answer for this. So, the L and two-lib limited atonement.
Yeah.
How do you define what that word means, or that phrase means?
Limited atonement. Christ only gave his life for the elect. So.
Okay, good. That's what I thought. Okay, yeah. So when John 3:16, which says, for God so loved the world that He gave His only begotten Son. How does that apply to that description of L?
Well, when you look at the actual Greek of that text, you don't see the word whosoever. What you see is the perfect, the present passive. There's a verb there that says that in this way, God loved the world, that He gave His Son. He gave His only begotten Son, that the believing ones would not perish but have everlasting life. So it doesn't say whosoever, which would be like a universal thing, but rather the believing ones. So the literal Greek would support the Calvinistic understanding that Christ only gave His life for the believing ones, or the ones who would believe.
So, but ultimately, that has nothing to do with like somebody conscientiously, mentally ascending to the truth, right? Because of P, right? Or L at least, unconditional election, right? Unconditional means there's nothing you can do. You're either elect or you're not, and that's completely from the perspective of God. So if that's true, why does it say in Scripture that to God, God desires that none shall perish? Well, if His desire is none shall perish, why is He arbitrarily choosing election?
Which one? Where are you quoting that from? Is that Peter or Timothy?
Off the top of my head, I don't know.
All right, okay, so if you're quoting it from Timothy, where it says that God desires that none perish, but that all would come to the knowledge of the truth, to come to faith, the context of that passage is in reference to all, like God holding His patience until all the elect come in. And the reason why we know that it's reference to the elect is when you look at the first chapter of the book, verse 1 of Peter. Peter makes reference to those scattered abroad through Cappadocia, Bithynia, Asia Minor, and so on, who are elected. And then verse 3, he says, you have been caused to be born again by the power of God. And verse 5 says that you are protected by the power of God until salvation ready to be revealed at last.
That wording does not substantiate the idea of regeneration prior to repentance. So in a non-Calvinistic point of view, it is the Spirit that has to give it new life, meaning we have to be given a new nature, okay, because our old nature has to be eradicated. So that passage does not, by logical necessity, support Calvinism.
It's also, thank you, Darth, but it's also curious to say that God is being patient for what is ultimately His timing on election. That to me is also curious.
So let me ask you this. This is just to prod your thinking. When the Bible speaks of election, where does it unequivocally and unambiguously refer to unconditional individual election as opposed to corporate election?
Oh, that's a good question. I guess I would have to go to Romans 9 and use Jacob and Esau as individuals.
Nope. No, because the election there was for national privilege and service. There's no reference to their eternal destiny. It's just simply talking about God's sovereign choice or election of one individual over another for national privilege for himself and their posterity. Doesn't say anything about Esau or Jacob's salvation.
And also the vessels of wrath and honor where an individual hypothetical is used as well.
But those are categories and classes. You can't show exegetically from the text that vessels of honor means that God chooses individually who will be the vessels of honor rather than God has created a world where he has sanctioned there will be two classes of people, vessels of honor and vessels of dishonor. So that doesn't support unconditional individual election as opposed to corporate election.
I guess what I would have to do is actually go back to my resources so I can actually be better prepared to face Darth Dawkins on this topic, because I'm not ready right now. I'm not prepared for this right now. But Second Peter.
I'm not going to beat up on Adrian.
Second Peter 3:9, which talks about.
He lets me block people, so I'm not going to be too hard on Adrian.
Yeah, Darth is just in a very slow, or not slow, a very meager way tagging on to some of the questions I'm asking. So beat me up, not him.
Yeah, I'm not gonna beat up. I'm not gonna beat up Darth either, man. Look, guys, these are very interesting topics. But
I try to avoid emotional conflict with my Reformed brothers.
Yeah, I don't want to debate Darth on Calvinism. That's not gonna go well. I don't like that.
Yeah.
I prefer to stand hand in hand with Darth on atheism. I learned a lot from Darth, and he goes with
Adrian's too handsome to argue with.
and also, Darth follows a Calvinist. What's his name? Cornelius Van Til was a Calvinist, you know. So
I'm a big Van Til and Bonson fanboy. You know.
So because
I just got done reading an introduction to the theology and apologetics of Van Til by Lane Tipton, who is one of the current living experts on Van Til, and I read through it. I love the book. It was extremely informative, but there were a number of points that Van Til staunchly advocated that I just don't agree with.
And that's totally fine, because whereas somebody can say that the presuppositional method is not only for Calvinists, it is very consistent with Calvinism. So because I'm a Calvinist, I've been led to it, and I am a presuppositionalist.
Come on up and explain how I can't run tag. I mean, it's pretty funny that you say I can't run tag when I've read virtually or most of Van Til's works. I've actually slowly and methodically read through all of his works. Okay, I've read most of. I think I've read all of Bonson's apologetic works. Okay, I'm very familiar with John Frame, very familiar with James Anderson. To say that I can't run tag, why don't you come up and support your contention instead of being a drive-by heckling girly man? Come on up, James, and explain how I can't run tag. Come on.
Yeah,
and also, aren't Charles Spurgeon and is it John MacArthur? They're both very well-established apologists. They're both Calvinists, right?
Yes,
yeah. So that's why I'm not a hard Calvinist. I'm never gonna say that because someone is not a Calvinist, they're gonna go to hell. I'll never say something like that. So
MacArthur was a 4-point Calvinist, not a 5-point Calvinist.
Wait, who? MacArthur?
John MacArthur was a 4-point Calvinist.
Oh. Okay. I'm gonna have to look into that. Because the first systematic theology I read in my entire life was written by John MacArthur and Richard Mayhew, and it's pretty Calvinistic.
Your request is not here, James.
Yeah,
it's not showing up.
But Ozzy, you and I can talk about Calvinism one of these days, man. When I have as a topic or something.
Richard Mayhew is a pretty good resource.
Yeah. I have my first systematic theology I read was written by him and John MacArthur, and it was very, very 5-pointer. Very 5-pointer.
James, your profile settings prevent us from inviting you up. Can you invite up James Love, because I'm only getting is the @ symbol here on his profile.
Yeah, me too. I'm getting the @ symbol too. I can't bring him up. I think his followers are too low.
You have to send a request, or either log out of TikTok and come back in and try to send another request. You certainly have enough followers to come up here. No, it's because of your profile settings, James. If you had different profile settings, we could invite you up. I find it quite amusing when somebody says that Darth Dawkins can't present tag. I mean, it's funny.
Yeah, you're so red in the subject. That's crazy. That's
Yeah.
crazy. But Darth, I'm gonna jump off of here now. So you and I, we're gonna link up again on atheism and Ozzy. One of these days, we'll talk about Calvinism. All right.
See you later.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks for the conversation. You guys have a good night.
Same to you guys. God bless you all. Love you. Let me jump off of here. Wait. I think I pushed the wrong thing. Where? Oh, he's requesting up now. James, sorry. Gotta go. Next time. Gotta go. All right. All right. All done. So we got what? 7 more followers? Woo. A lot of followers. Now, let me see if I can go live on my computer now, since I have access on live. All right. I'm now over 1,000 followers on TikTok, so I'm good. Let me see how much I got. I got 1,007 followers now, so I should have access on TikTok Studio. Yeah. I'm gonna try it now and see if it works. God bless you all. Thanks for coming.